Okay, all my gamer friendulums, I'm back again, but today I'm doing something different. I'm not reporting on any news. I wanted to make a video about adaptations, games that haven't been announced, games that could make a great adaptation. So with the success of shows like The Last of Us, Arcane, and Fallout, it's official that they're no longer the butt of the Hollywood joke.
You've lost your balls.
So today, we're diving into the games that haven't made it to the screen yet, but absolutely should. Whether it's got the gripping stories, the rich worlds and lore, unforgettable characters. So this is my list of the top 5 games that have yet to get an adaptation that definitely deserve one. Before we get into that, don't forget to take a moment to like and subscribe, because it would really help a brother out. And starting at number 5, we have 2012 Spec Ops: The Line. And it is not just a simple game about war, because the game itself is actually pretty devastating. If you want to find out why, go on YouTube and check it out, because it does have a pretty big twist. And I'm always very anti-twist revealing no matter what, even if it's something that came out a million years ago. If it has a twist, I'm not going to reveal it because I'm a nice guy like that. But the basic story of Spec Ops: The Line is where a trio of Delta Force operatives, led by a Captain Martin Walker, descend into a post-apocalyptic Dubai for a recon mission. The further they go, the objectives change, and the more you play, Captain Martin Walker becomes less stable mentally and starts to experience hallucinations. The entire game is truly just about the true horrors of war and how dark and disturbing it all is. And a director that could actually work for something like this, I could just be saying this because he's one of my absolute favorite directors, but Ridley Scott, just because of how he's able to tackle any genre really, though it could be somewhat similar to Black Hawk Down. Someone like Ridley Scott, or maybe even Alex Garland, mainly because Alex Garland wrote some video games early on in his career. He actually wrote Enslaved and one of the Devil May Cry games, so he has an experience with that. But it's a very dark movie, but it's a pretty dark game with a dark message, and when you get to the end of it, it reveals, it has a pretty devastating twist at the end that could work really well on screen. At number 4, we have Control, an interesting, mind-bending, supernatural thriller. Control came out in 2019 and is developed by Remedy Entertainment. Remedy is one of those developers that have been consistently releasing excellent games pretty much almost during the entire career, most recently with Alan Wake 2. Control would work rather well on screen as a film for its supernatural styles. It's somewhat like a X-Files meets David Lynch kind of vibe. The game's setting, the mysterious Federal Bureau of Control, is basically a haunted office building with psychic objects, reality shifts, and an interdimensional threat. The series could blend some horror, sci-fi, and a slow burn mystery. Severance meets Stranger Things. The crux of Control revolves around the Federal Bureau of Control, a secret US government agency tasked with containing and studying phenomena that violates the laws of reality. The main character is Jessie Faden, the Bureau's new director, and she explores the oldest house, the FBC's paranormal headquarters. She has powerful abilities that are used to defeat deadly enemies known as the Hiss, which have invaded and corrupted reality. I'm not going to directly say that any of these games would work better as a film or a TV show, though it seems lately that TV shows have become the better choice for certain games. It kind of almost depends on the game itself if it would work better as a show. Like Fallout and Last of Us just worked better as a show. You know, Super Mario Bros. Worked better as a movie. Next up we have Deus Ex, which is the game series has 3 games. The original coming out in 2000, and then Deus Ex Human Revolution, Mankind Divided. Initially, they actually did announce in 2012 there was a film adaptation in the works, but that has since completely died, and there's been basically no information for about 10 years. So I consider this to be one that's not even in the works, as there hasn't been any updates or reports forever. Overall, as a movie, and someone like Guillermo del Toro could work as a director, as he would probably do justice visually and in terms of honoring the source material. You can even make it feel a little bit more horror, as it has the potential to be more than just a great sci-fi film. But the series itself, Human Evolution, seems to be the one that's favored the most. It's set in 2027, which is funny because that's only like 2 years from now, and it follows Adam Jensen, a security specialist at Seraph Industries, a company that develops augmentations or official organs. These augmentations are a big part of the game. As your character yourselves acquire more augmentations, it's kind of like the new plastic surgery, where instead of getting a new nose, you can get a new artificial organ, or you can get a metallic arm that shoots lasers out of it. You do start the game as Jensen being fully human, but then he gets patched up by Seraph with augmentations and is later sent to investigate the organization behind the attack. The game has hardcore cyberpunk feelings, but also with a little bit of Renaissance. And the game's art director was inspired by Rembrandt and used a lot of black and gold to offset the dystopian setting that could work well on the big screen with some of the same influence that were used. So considering that this was something that was in the works back in 2012, it seems to be completely dead. So it's time to resurrect the DSX, and I actually think this one specifically would work better as a show. Perhaps a Netflix 8 to 10 episode season. Number 2 on the list is definitely me cheating a little bit. I think it's time for Resident Evil to get a full reboot. They've actually made a lot of Resident Evil adaptations, live action and animated, CG animated. But I think it's time for them to reboot the live action film and just start from scratch. Start all over again. Get rid of Mila Jovovich. She's one of the worst actors that's ever lived.
Lilu Dallas Multipass.
Because the very first Resident Evil that came out in 2000, none of them were really adaptations from the games at all. They just took kind of the world of it and made their own thing. It's pretty clear that that's not really the way to go with adaptations anymore. It's better to use the games for at least a blueprint of where to go. Widely considered the best of all the Resident Evil games is Resident Evil 4, and I wouldn't argue with that. Resident Evil is one of my favorite series. I love the first 2 and number 4, and I did play a bit of 3, but I just don't think 3 is as good as those ones. But I would also argue that 2 could be the best one. Resident Evil recently has come back when it somewhat soft rebooted the entire franchise when it switched to first person in 2017. But I think that it's time to hard reboot the entire Resident Evil franchise. A character like Leon, the main character from Resident Evil 4, and Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 4, he's kind of a lot of people's favorites character. And a lot of people agree that 4 is the best one, and a movie adaptation is long overdue. 4 has a brilliant and captivating conspiracy thriller action where you're actually tasked with saving the US president's daughter, Ashley Graham. Kind of cheesy, but it's a video game, so stories like that don't exactly come out as cheesy as much when they're in a video game. But I really like Lee Wennell as a director. He's one of my favorite directors right now. He recently did The Wolfman, which I thought was kind of underrated. It didn't do very well and it didn't get good ratings, but I enjoyed it for what it was. And I really love his grounded take on horror and sci-fi. In the game itself, Resident Evil 4, your Leon is sent on a mission to rescue the president's kidnapped daughter. But eventually he finds out that she's being held captive in a Spanish village by a mysterious cult. And Leon uncovers a conspiracy against the president himself, learning that Ashley is only intended to be a tool in reaching world domination. Not all that original, but it is one of the goats of the video games, and it has the potential to be a successful film. I'm not directly saying that they should just reboot with 4. They could easily just reboot with 1 and go back to the house. They need to do a movie where they're just in the original creepy mansion from the very first game. You are outside in some moments, but you're spent most of the time in the house. And I think that would work really great on screen. Chris Redfield, who's also from first game, or Jill Valentine. So you could be any one of those characters. You could have all 3 of those characters. This is me just saying out loud that I think it's time for the Resident Evil adaptations as a whole to be completely rebooted. Story-wise, I actually think Red Dead Redemption would work on the big screen. Even though I like GTA more than Red Dead would work better on the screen as a kind of a classic Western, perhaps with directors like the Coen brothers. Did a really great remake of True Grit, which is not a thing that the Coens do. They don't remake movies, but their remake of True Grit in 2010 was really good. Considering that Rockstar's games are already as film-like as possible, a faithful adaptation of one of their games would still be great. And who doesn't love Westerns? Red Dead is perfect for the silver screen because of their captivating and immersive storylines. In itself, Red Dead is a beautiful and they have a cinematic experience that Rockstar includes in most of its games, and even enjoying its cutscenes with a cinematic mood is a great way to feel like you're already watching a movie. Yeah, the cutscenes in Rockstar games and just in games in general nowadays are straight up just like a movie. You just put your controller down and you just watch it play out. Unless you're someone like me who sometimes doesn't like getting stuck in cutscenes and just wants to keep playing the game. And I believe they could easily just adapt game 1 or 2 directly into a film. A sprawling 2.5 hour Western that Red Dead would work better as a long film and not as a series or as a shorter film. I think a 2 hour, 2.5 hour epic would work the best for the Red Dead movie. A Red Dead for a potential Red Dead movie. As I said, that someone like the Coens would give the story a justice, as they often make westerns, and understand what makes them appealing. Even if it's not a direct western, it has that western feel to it, just like No Country for Old Men.
Will die savagely.
But there you have my pretty short and sweet list of the top 5 yet to be announced adaptations for games. Could easily work well. Maybe these are already in the works, and perhaps I didn't do enough digging to find out that these are adaptations that are already being worked on. Like I said earlier, there was a Deus Ex adaptation in the works, but that was so long ago and nothing's happened. It's essentially dead. Some of these things could already be in the works as well. I wouldn't be surprised if a adaptation of one of the Rockstar games, GTA or Red Dead, is already in the works. All that remains to be seen. These are just my choices for 5 games that have yet to be adapted that could work really well. Other than Resident Evil, yes, I cheated with Resident Evil, but I think it's time for them to finally completely reboot the entire series. But that is just my opinion. I would love to hear your opinion. I would love for you to comment below and let me know what you think are some games that I missed that you would really love to see on screen. I wanted to just keep it a short list. I don't like long top 10 lists. I like keeping it at 5, short and sweet. 5 is short and sweet. So there are a lot of adaptations in the works. These are just some that I thought would work really great. So I would love for you to comment below and let me know what you think are your ideas. And if you like my ideas, maybe you think they're stupid. If they're stupid, you can say that. It's okay. You can call me stupid. You can go in the comments and call me dumb. It's okay. I still love you. But before I leave you, please don't forget to take a moment to subscribe. It really helps me out tremendously. Please share this with all your friends. Please like, but above all else, don't forget to keep gaming.